Hello, this is one of the legends of contemporary theater, Mr. Purkarete. Very, very nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us at our popular free podcast in Off Media, Off News. Where do I find you now? What are you doing? What are you working on?
I'm not working actually. I'm in a short holiday. I'm in a
Ah,
short holiday home. Yes, because I'm home now after I finish the performance that will be presented now in Sofia. I finished it one week to 10 days ago actually.
yes.
I had to go home. I don't live in Romania.
You live in France.
I live in France, so I had to go home, and then I'll be back in Romania after one more week. So
Uh,
now I'm just preparing new things.
New things. You prefer classical texts, we noticed. So are you reading some old, loved, beloved texts you want to return to or something new?
What do you mean by new? I mean new literature or what? No, yeah.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
not
no, no.
much good new
Oh,
literature.
indeed. Probably I'm choosing. I'm choosing very old literature. I don't know why I can't explain it now. It will take too long. But my preference in general is directed to old classical texts.
And maybe I remember one interview of Tarkovsky, our favorite filmmaker. Uh, he said, everybody is asking me always, what are the symbols in your films? And I don't use symbols, I just make films. Maybe this is the case with you. Maybe I shouldn't ask you, why do you choose old texts instead of more contemporary ones?
No, in general, if I choose old texts, I choose them because I found in those texts very actual questions. So it's not, yeah, sometimes they are more clear and more obvious in those old texts than in very fresh dramatic texts. Sometimes very fresh dramatic texts are too much infested with ideology.
Ah, uh-huh, yes.
With, and I don't like very much. Uh,
Propaganda.
no, not kind of propaganda. Yes, and I don't like the how do you call them um, the militant art. It's not my favorite. So
Uh,
probably this is why I choose old texts. I'm very old, in fact. I'm not a very young man, so I'm not no more interested in changing the world immediately.
And you are, but you are changing it with your theater.
I'm not so sure, but it's very kind from you to say that.
Well,
But theater
uh,
cannot change the world. No.
I'm sure art is one of the few things that can, or at least I hope this, but maybe I'm too idealistic. Well, I read that at the beginning of your career, you directed an open air performance of the legends of the Atriadi, in
Yes.
the picturesque setting of an ancient city
Yeah.
with 8-meter masks. I wish I could watch this performance. And it was on the beach of Black Sea. How was, do you remember, how was this accepted? Was this in Romania?
Yeah. Yeah. It was in
How was this,
Romania, yes.
this
It was,
brave performance accepted back then?
what do you mean by the audience? What
By
what
the
what do you mean?
critics? By the censorship?
Well, it was it was something quite special because this was in a very desert place at some 30 kilometers from Constanza. Constanza, it's the main city in the seashore in Romania. So at that place there were the ruins of an ancient Greek city. Histria was called.
Mhm.
And it was just, it was not no more the seaside, it was a lagoon. It was a lagoon that the sea was moved meanwhile. So it was a very interesting space. Um, and It was a festival. The theater at that time invented a festival of an ancient theater in Constanza. So there were
Okay.
several productions, and this production of mine was presented there just for one time, only one
Only
time.
once. Ay, ay, ay.
One
What
time.
a huge
Only
work
one
is
time. It was,
wanted.
yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, it was no video at that time. I probably there are few photos, so nothing is left of that. Only the memories of the spectators of the audience, who was quite limited at that time. And yeah, on the lake there was no electricity, so we played the show in the evening, so in the natural light, and when it was completely dark, it was real that was used for lighting. And at the end, it was a beautiful ancient Greek mask burning on the sea, and this was quite spectacular at that time. This very long time ago.
How old were you?
At that time, I 30, 29, 28, 28, no, 20, 28,
But
28. I
then,
was quite
but
young.
then you left Romania and started to work
No,
abroad.
I actually I left. I didn't defected. I didn't left Romania during the communist period.
Ah, okay,
No, no,
later.
no, no, no. No, quite later. Actually, I got a job in France. I got a theater. I was proposed to direct a theater
You
in
were the
France.
director of the theater of
And then
Limoges, right?
after 7 or 8 years living in that theater, I just decided to stay with my family in France. But I work very very much in Romania, and not only sometimes, but mostly in Romania.
How was in Limoges? How did compared to Romanian theater, to the traditions you were used to, were this particular period of your work in Limoges when you were the director of Limoges
Well,
Theater?
it is well, of course, in Romania, as in Bulgaria, for instance, the theaters are state theater with permanent
Yes,
companies, repertory theaters. So repertory theaters, no,
right.
with permanent companies,
Yes.
which is not the case in France. In France, there are no actors in a theater. A theater has just a structure of personnel, and you are hiring actors for a specific production, and you
Yes.
work with them from the first day of the rehearsal until the last day of performance.
But which model do you think is more efficient?
So when I work in the Romanian style, I long for that system. In the Western style, when I work in the Western style, I long for the Romanian style. So,
Yeah, normal. The
so
grass is greener.
each system has advantages and disadvantages. So depends.
Well, have you seen Bulgarian theater so far?
Very few, unfortunately, very few. But I was expecting this question. But I can tell you, I knew very very few about Bulgarian theater. Very few about Sfumato
Ah,
only.
yes.
And but but
Sfumato
but
were
but,
great
but
in the 90s,
please.
yes.
Yes, but no, I just met them. I don't know, Margarita
Margarita is
Mladenova, yeah,
great, the
somebody else.
greatest one. Yes, she's
Some,
so
yeah,
smart.
yeah, some years ago. We've just, but I'm not at all a good connoisseur of Bulgarian theater, but not even Romanian theater. So I go very, very very seldom to see performances, even in Romania. So I'm not at all informed about what happens around me now.
You know, we actually used to have really good world theater, world class theater in the 90s after the Berlin Wall fell down, and very good directors. But most of them left. I mean, are dead. And the unfortunate thing is that nobody left as followers, students. I know that
Yeah.
you had your own school in France, right? Do you feel this mission accomplished to leave followers that will continue your work?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Well, that's cool. That was that I made in France. Actually, it was not something where I intended to impose my view on theater because I have no view on theater. To So I don't think I have something
But the theater has a
to
view on you.
I don't know.
They compare
But
you to
it
Peter.
was really also
Ah,
this. Oh, I
they
didn't
compare you to
understand.
Peter Brook sometimes.
This is very nice. I mean, it's very nice to say so, but I don't see any comparison, unfortunately. Um,
I think
it
it
was
was
a school.
the nights at the National Theatre in Craiova that was compared to Mahabharata, to Petersburg Mahabharata. The nights at the National Theatre of Craiova.
It's Mahabharata. Mahabharata is the performance of Peter Brook.
Yes. And yours is
Yeah.
the nights, the nedite.
Ah, yes. Yes, it's true, but the comparison is only the fact that the both performances were played in the same space in Avignon. So
Ah, that's why.
this is the only thing that makes them together. Actually, my Danaids in France were very badly received.
Ah,
It was
really?
yeah, very badly received. The critics received it
What did they
very
say?
bad. I don't remember, but they said it's very bad. I
But
don't
how
know.
how do you take critics? Because in our profession, either as an actor or also as a director, even more so, you're always being selected, being criticized, being judged. How do you deal with that?
It's normal. This is in life. It is like that. It's something. It's something normal. Um, you have to take all these critics with a lot of rationality, with to try to understand what can be true, because sometimes it's true. Sometimes you might have how do you call it, very good critics. Good critics. I mean, with some
Useful.
very encomiastic, no, so very encomiastic critics, which are in fact very bad, even if they say it's wonderful, and the opposite. So um, I'm not very much impressed by critics.
But are you
Some
vain?
uh, I'm no more than other people, I think. I don't have the vanity to say that I am not vain.
Very good. Very well
Yes,
put.
but yes, but our job is always haunted by vanity. We cannot avoid it. The only thing you can try to just to tame this vanity with some kind of humor,
Yes.
probably, because otherwise.
But
But but anyway, I'm not destroyed when I read a bad critic, but I'm not excessively happy when I read a very good critic. I mean, it's so
well, you know very well, before the Berlin Wall fell down, one single critic can destroy one's life, can send even people to a concentration camp. I mean, the work of the critics was crucial.
Indeed, well, indeed. Indeed, and not only and at that time, but sometimes in for very commercial theater, it is important. I don't know. There were in New York, there were critics that could really decide
Ruin your
about
life.
the sort of a performance. I mean, there were troops that were waiting in the morning after the opening. They waiting for the critic, and they knew if they go on or not.
Exactly. There is this
Performance.
famous restaurant right in on Broadway where
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was with all these pictures and drawings
yeah,
of famous theater people,
yeah,
and they were waiting there for for the newspaper to come
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah, indeed.
Well, but people who deal with theater more seriously, like yourself,
Yeah.
probably should not be so careful about the reviews. But are you careful about the audience? Because here at certain point there was this movement, I would say. Very good theatrical directors would say, "Well, we don't care about the audience anymore. We're doing this for the sake of doing it." And now, because of political reasons and because of commercial reasons, it's the opposite. Everybody wants to please the public, so we have only commercial theater lately. Maybe only at the National Theater there are different performances. So, which biases? Both biases are too dangerous, right? Uh, Were you at certain point in your career tamed to not care about the public?
It's very difficult to answer. I don't know how to answer. There are different audiences. There are
Right.
different audiences. That's sure. You cannot please everybody. That's sure. And probably with time, you start to get your own audience. Some people who are interested to see what you are doing. I don't think that you can really try to do things to bring very many people to theater, right? I don't know. So probably there are there are techniques to do that, but I don't know. I don't know how to do that. So I cannot blame the commercial theater. There is some kind of commercial theater which has its aim is to bring a lot of audience to earn money. Sometimes in commercial theater you have fabulous good examples. Sometimes not. I don't know all the théâtre de boulevard in
Right.
France. No, if we speak about La Biche, Feydeau, je sais pas they were writing for a lot of audience. They wanted money. They wanted to earn money. So they made a very commercial theater, but it was very, very good theater. It was very good theater. I don't think that Grotowski had a lot of audience in his
Probably not.
rooms.
But still,
Yes, but there are different ways of audience. So I don't think at audience
right.
uh, in a statistic way because I don't know how to do it. I'd like to, but I think about some kind of a virtual spectator,
Okay.
which is in my head.
Okay.
Yes, it's. I try to work for that virtual entity, which sometimes correspond to the reality sometimes.
I'm asking you because we went through this very, very painful process here when the political class that came to power decided that culture, real, true culture, art, is not needed anymore, and they made such a reform of the theatrical fund of the funding of the theater and classical music and art that in order to survive, they have to make money to sell tickets. There's nothing bad with that, of course, nothing wrong with that. But because they put also their people on key positions, these people don't have taste. And I totally agree with you that a very good performance could also sell and could also be commercial and could also be liked by a huge amount of audience. But these people, no, they decided to go to the boulevard comedy type of low taste theater. And we lost a world class theater this way. And it was all a political choice. How did this happen in Romania or not?
I don't know. I told you I don't know very much about about the theater in Romania. I did not, but this is something that belongs to political thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere they don't care. They don't care
Mm-hmm.
about art. They care about
Money.
having a lot of not only money, propaganda, which is can be done to the theater. So the only criteria that politicians understand is the number of spectators.
Exactly.
So, but it's like that. It's normal for them. You cannot blame them. This is their job. This is their job to do that. Of course, that what can you do? There are very few. There are very few princes. It was some time when art belonged to princes, to a prince, a duke, a king, who was taking care of the artists. All the artists lived on the expenses of princes.
Yeah, like Leonardo or
Like
Molière.
Leonardo, like Mozart, like everybody. So
Molière
everybody,
too, right?
like Molière, like Bach, like everybody
Yes.
worked for earning money and depending on a prince. The prince can be more enlightened, more clever and more generous, or can be an idiot.
Exactly.
The same thing with the politicians. You can have idiot politicians, which is unfortunately the most general situation. But
Yes.
sometimes you can find here or there somebody who can be more interested in. Uh, I don't know. Stalin was very much interested in the quality of art. He
I
didn't
know,
care about he didn't care about having millions of spectators. He wanted to have very good art in his theater.
unfortunately.
So,
Yes.
so what are
Right
the
question,
criteria?
right answer. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, speaking of the returning to my previous question about the audience, in 1968, you staged Fedra in a mountain village in Sicily, right? An abandoned village.
No.
No?
That was a performance that was done in the theater of Craiova.
Ah, not in Italy.
And no, no,
Which was in Italy then?
no. This was a performance made with the company of the theater of Craiova.
Ah, okay.
That performance uh, toured all over the world, really all over the world. I mean, they were from America to Australia to Asia to everything, and to Italy. They performed it at sometimes really in this. I was not there. I was them when they played in a small village that was destroyed after an
Earthquake, I think.
earthquake. An
Yeah.
earthquake, exactly. What was the name? Gibellina. Gibellina was the name, yeah. And they invented a festival of theater there. and they presented theater on that very bizarre landscape. It was very beautiful, actually. The landscape.
But how do you bring the audience there?
I didn't bring. They did bring it because they
They how
organized
did
that festival. I don't know how they did. I was there few days before just to check the place and to tell the company how to adapt. Of course, they had the gradin. How do you call the? They were building places for audience in front
but
of a natural set. It's
But even
normal.
in Italy, I don't know if you have been recently. We've been to Sicily last year, and we tried to go to the theater of Catania, where Bellini was born, and there were no performances. They were performing once a month, which is
Yeah.
like Italy, Italy, the most cultural place. So sad.
Well, opera is maybe better, but theater in Italy it's not very.
Very good. I agree.
No, that is very good. It's people looks not to be very interested to theater. Unfortunately, there are great theater people, but I don't think that there is such an Italy, such an boiling taste for theater.
Uh, you've worked everywhere. So can you
Yeah,
tell me where, according to you, is now the most interesting theatrical scene?
I can't tell that. I cannot. I really cannot tell that. More of a bit. I don't know. I don't know. In the last years, I didn't travel so much. I only travel for my own work. So I was not looking around to see, but
Right. But
I don't
I
know.
mean,
It was a period when German theater was extremely interesting. I don't know. It's a Russian theater was very good at some
absolutely.
time.
Yes.
Probably it should be now too, but I don't know if they still are there.
I think
I don't know
most
if
of
they
the intelligent people left Russia already.
many of them, yes, many of them left, yeah. So which is a pity. Yes, of course, there are a lot of Russian artists, but there were structures that worked very well. I worked in um, in Russia, when in Moscow, in Tovstonogov, in not Tovstonogov, good God, how do you call it? No, I have
Merholt?
no,
No.
no, 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 no. I have a lapsus. I have a terrible lapsus. I will tell you. It was the theater of Rimas Tuminas
Ah,
who
yes, yes, yes. Okay.
uh, it's the name of great director with Armenian name. Oof, one of the great classical,
Greatest Russian directors.
yeah, which now goes out of my head. Sometimes it happens with age. This is more
Not
often.
only with age. We live in such a time, nobody ever had so much information, pictures, video.
Yes,
Nobody ever was overloaded with so many things in the human history. So it's normal.
Vakhtangov.
Ah, Vartangov. Okay.
Yes, and Vakhtangov theater. Yeah,
So
and
yes,
it was
they did have great theater, right?
yes, they had, but of course German theater was very interesting. But
English
sometimes
theater?
you can have beautiful things everywhere. I don't know. I don't know. It's okay. Yeah. But I'm
Uh,
not, I'm not, I don't know. I cannot judge on something that I don't
okay,
really
okay,
know.
okay. But well, you've worked during communism and you've worked after that abroad, and you can compare the ways we were trying to escape the censorship with this Aesop language before And the ways theater has opened up now and being, as you said, a propaganda, total like direct talk, political talk, and I feel you dislike that. You prefer more subtle way of telling what you mean. Can you remember the worst battle with censorship you had in Romania before 1989?
No, yes, but I'm not. The problem is not about the way of saying the things in more a subtle way. I think it's more important to put the right questions in the most deep way possible. I mean, to
Okay.
try to go deep in a text, and sometimes it's in the fight with the censorship was very comic. It was
Sometimes
very
yes.
comic.
Sometimes
What
tragic for some people.
For some people it was very tragic, but in fact it was very very comic. Uh, in Romania, we used a word for this kind of political subtle suggestion that you put in the performance when you want to say something but not being
Directly, yeah.
direct. It was called a lizard. A lizard. It's
Okay.
serpent. Yeah, it was a lizard. So this was the uh, and many of the performances contained this kind of lizards. The comic part is that there were performances or places where there was no lizard at all, but the audience discovered lizards. So
Aha,
the
yes.
the audience was always prepared to understand something that actually it was not there. So nobody intended to do. So this was some kind of perversion of the of
Exactly.
the perception of the artistic perception. So this was something very bad, in fact, because sometimes you can do a performance which was, let's say, normal. For instance, I had problem with I made Richard III in 84 or 85. I don't remember, 84, like that.
Such a great play, yes.
It was a great play. I didn't have any attempt to make any connection with
Rebellious,
political
yes.
situation in Romania because it was not necessary to do that, and it was not my no interest to that. The interest was to discover what was in this play. But of course, the reality was like in that play. So the performance was very. It was not. They didn't stop it, but it was very much controlled by political things like that, and it was very uh, because Richard III didn't look like it. It was not the intention of Shakespeare to depaint the communist regime through Richard III, but the communist regime looked like that. But
Resembled Richard III, yes. So we were talking about the way the censorship was working, and you're Richard III. That you didn't intentionally make it rebellious, but still it was seen as dangerous, right? And what happened then? What happened? Because I feel like we have to remember those moments because in Bulgaria, people feel nostalgic about communism, a lot of people. And of course, it's part of the Russian propaganda. Um, but still, we have to retell these stories about what we've been through, about my grandfather was almost in a concentration camp because of a joke he said. I mean, these were horrible times, right?
Well, what happened in those times? It was actually it was a very humiliating atmosphere. At some point, I mean, um, I don't know how it was in Bulgaria, but in Romania, the communists had basically two big periods: the Stalinistic period, the first part between after the war until I think 72, when it was completely under the Soviet control, and the political murder and everything. It was terrible. And then it was the period of Ceausescu from 74 till 89, which was at the beginning for people, it looked like a solution. It was a solution because it was how do you call the disruption of the Russian influence. Do you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
So people said, okay, so yeah, so it will be some kind of the national values can come back, and it was some kind of hope. In '68, when Prague, the Czechoslovakia, was invaded, Romanian didn't participate to that, and so everybody in the country said, "Okay, look, it can be interesting." But then we discovered that it was not the case. That the bad times have been replaced by some other kind of bad times, which were based on a very heavy nationalism. So the period was called national communism.
Right.
It's not national socialism like in Germany, but it was national communism. It was not a bloody regime. This was not really bloody regime, the
Right.
regime of Ceausescu. It was humiliating. It was humiliating. The country get into such a kind of terrible poverty and darkness and everything. So we didn't have television in the last years. We in Bucharest we were watching Bulgarian television
No, I
because then
didn't
we
know
had
that.
we so in the last years in the south of the country was watching Bulgarian television. The western country was watching Hungarian television, and it was something like that. So this was the problem. It was huge poverty and humiliation and darkness, and really darkness. In the theaters during the winter, people were dressed with furs and because there was no heating. There was no heating in the theaters. So this was the part of. So the problem of the censorship was no more so important. The censorship was no more so important. So actually, the those who were intended to control that they were people from the party, yeah, from the party or from the political police who had to deal with all these problems. In general, they were completely uneducated persons
Yeah.
who didn't know what it was about. So, but they needed to do something in a field they can't understand. So what the use was something to give them a little trick to to give them the sensation that they
Are doing something.
impose the. Hmm?
That they're
Please,
doing something. Yeah.
that they are doing something. So sometimes you could do little changes. Okay, if you think this, we make little changes to please you, and they were very satisfied. So this was it. At the time, it was the legend. I mean, the principle of the black dog. The black dog was in the community of Beaux-Arts, of painters and painters are artists, visual artists. So to try to avoid censorship in their thing, they were painting a little dog in different that they made any painting, I don't know, landscape or portrait or whatever, and they were painting a little black dog in the corner. And then the commission came, I mean, the personnel who was Indian and tried to understand what it is. They didn't know what to say, how to say if it was okay to let the art go on or not. And finally they said, but what is that dog there? I don't know. We may make a black dog, but do you think it's necessary? If you don't like, we can put it out. So this was a little legend, of course, but this was the principle of the way of artists in general to deal in a very comic way. Of course, there have been artists and intellectuals who didn't accept that and were very, very tough, and they had to either to leave the country, either or have been completely they got interdiction to exerce the art, but they are not very many, unfortunately, in Romania. So of course the dream of communism is something very, very, very strange. In a way, it's the older generation.
It's the dream for the youth of these
The
people.
youth. For the old generation is the youth.
Yeah.
What is the most dangerous is the young generation.
Absolutely.
They don't know what it was about.
Absolutely.
They can be the perfect victim of any kind of propaganda. So this is what happened now. What happens now in Romania? I don't know, in Bulgaria probably. Also
yes.
after this all the influence, the Russian influence on young generation who dream of Ceausescu's times, of deep nationalism and rejection of Europe and all that.
This is
I think
exactly
it's
our
some
problem
kind of,
now. I mean, we're about
yeah.
to enter the Eurozone and accept the euro, and there are protests around the country organized by a nationalistic party funded by Russia, who are
Yeah.
against this progress, who want us
Yeah.
to live back in the dark.
Yes, of course, of course. It's the same thing that happens in all Eastern countries, but
Why is that? Why? All the Eastern European countries didn't succeed to realize, to overcome the trauma, to ask for forgiveness, the guilty to ask for forgiveness. Well, in Romania, you had a very abrupt stop of everything. You executed Ceausescu. We didn't have this. I mean, our dictator was living in his villa till he died, which is also a
yes,
problem.
the problem in Romania, it was they were very clever. They executed Ceausescu for the second to live in the villas.
Exactly.
So it was a scapegoat. The problem of the execution of the Ceausescu was exactly the scapegoat. Yeah. So this was the evil. The evil is out. So now we can
Continue.
continue. So this was what happened. Well, history is always more complicated and very difficult to explain. That is sometimes much more intelligent to look what Shakespeare said or Seneca about these things, because
Yes.
they used to live sometimes very similar situations. And because if we know, we always believe that we discovered the hot water. How is that? No, it was discovered long time ago, and we always face things that are incomprehensible, and but which are repeated. The history is repeated.
Well, not exactly, because the new censorship that brought, for example, Trump to power, that's minority censorship, the censorship of the excluded, the censorship of Me Too, of the blacks, of the gay, it went so far away, far beyond any comprehension, that now we are having this idiocratic administry in the United States.
This is what happens very often. So very often the extreme right is reactive. It's
Right.
reactive to something. It's reacting to something, and very often all these things happen because of the stupidities that left-wing intellectual are provoking. Indeed, what happens in America with the woke religion is one of the cause of the presence of Mr. Trump in power, I'm sure. And similar things will happen in Europe also.
I think you had a very interesting episode in Canada regarding this type of political correctness censorship, right? Long ago, you had an episode with the political correctness censorship.
Yeah. How do you know it?
I know everything.
No, yeah. This was very funny indeed. But this was in the 91 or 92, something like that. We didn't know. It was just the beginning. It was just the beginning. It was we had absolutely no
Idea about it, yes.
understanding ideas about what has happened. I was there with a performance with Titus Andronicus from Shakespeare. And in Titus Andronicus, there is a character which is a Moor, Aaron, which is the Moor, which is the worst character. It's very bad. It's very bad because he is a Moor, and they said his soul is as black as his face. So this is the Shakespeare word. And in the performance, because he was a Moor, the actor was painted with a black face, a short brown face.
Paint,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes, and then in Canada, it was a huge scandal. The director of the festival came to me. She was completely because the press was extremely violent about this fact that the blackface is in the show, and say we have to find a solution to this, because otherwise we cancel the performance.
In
And then I said
1992.
92 or 93, 92, I think, 92. And I was completely astonished about this thing. I couldn't understand. So I just said like a joke, but if I make his face blue, it's okay. They thought, yeah, it's okay. Blue, it's okay. And
Blue is okay.
yes, and I painted blue. So they acted, the Moor had a blue face, and everybody was very happy. Yeah. But I also made one movie in my life. So some 10 years ago, in the movie there is one character which is played by a Romanian actor, but he's black. He should be a black person coming from Africa or something like that. And that is why the movie have been rejected by Netflix Netflix took a lot of Romanian films, but this film has been rejected because of this situation, because there is the blackface case in the movie. So the black, and then I understand, a white actor has not the right to play a black.
Why?
A white actor, I don't know.
White
The
cannot
white
play black. Okay.
cannot play black.
Yeah, but blacks
Play
can play all
cannot
the
cannot.
roles that belong to white people historically. I mean, a little Lord Fauntleroy, we watched with my daughter the film, and he was black. Well, this is historically impossible. So, I mean, or the fairy in Cinderella is a black gay. Well, obviously, in Cinderella in France or in Germany, it was written by Charles Perrault, by Brothers Grimm. There were no black gays at the time, and the fairy is obviously a woman,
Yeah. Yes,
a
of
white
course.
woman.
All these things are very, very bizarre. We'll see how it will happen, how it will.
And it's not, the thing is, as far as we underline this and take it as an exception and give them more rights and stuff to the minorities, they still remain exceptions. We should just
Exactly.
take it
Exactly.
normally. Everybody should
Yes.
compete
Yes.
because they're good or they're not that good in cinema, in theater, not because they're black or they're gay or, I mean, it's obvious.
Yeah, I don't know. It's but anyway, this subject is extremely delicate because sometimes is
People get offended, I know.
no, not only that. The cultural pattern is important. So, in our countries we see things really different. I was also shocked in some 20 years ago, or I don't know, almost in Britain, when I was doing the Tempest, Shakespeare's Tempest, and I was casting. I was making a casting, and um, a black girl came to play Miranda in the casting. She was extremely very good. She was really
Very
very
good.
good. But I say, how could I put Miranda, a black girl, the daughter of a white Prospero? Because then it was not her daughter. So
Yeah,
the story wouldn't work. And they told me in Britain nobody will think like that.
yeah,
Nobody in the audience will think like that because this kind of how shall I use the word inclusion?
inclusion.
Okay, of the black persons in theater started to be normal. So I was very happy then to take that girl, but unfortunately she left for a movie, more get much more money. But then I understand that this has no meaning there. It was in um, Peter Brook made a Hamlet with a black actor,
Yeah.
and it worked perfectly. It works perfectly.
I
No,
remember some Shakespeare by Chick by Jowl who came, they came here in the 80s
who
and
made
they,
exactly they made as you like it, as you like it. It was
right.
the same thing with that. Yes. So it can
They're
work
working
in
at the National,
theater
they're, Chick by Jowl now just staged Medea at the National Theatre in Bulgaria.
yeah.
The two
Yes, I know it.
directors.
I know them very well. Yes, we are friends. Yes, they work a lot in Romania also. Recently, they worked in Craiova. They worked in Russia very much. So,
So, I wanted to ask you about Faust, which is how many years your beautiful performance has.
18,
How do
18.
you how do you do that?
I don't do it. It's indeed bizarre myself. I don't understand how it is. Now it started to be some kind of a touristic trick. You see,
Attraction.
touristic attraction. Yes, exactly, because they make packs, how do you call it, 3 days of hotel with visiting, I don't know what, and seeing Faust. It's,
Great.
yeah, it's very strange. It's a very strange phenomenon. I don't know why. It is a good performance
It's a great
indeed,
performance, yes.
but there are a lot of very good performances that they don't have this kind of. I don't know. I don't know why it works like that.
Maybe because also the story of the man selling his soul to the devil is
Yes,
very, very
exactly. But a lot of other stories are very
eternal. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's very spectacular, and it's indeed a performance where um, um, all kind of audience can be
Can watch.
satisfied.
Okay.
It can be very popular theater if you want, and very let's say sophisticated, or depends on the taste. Probably this is and also some kind of fashion. Everybody says, okay, let's go and see that because it's fashion to see that. Fortunately, it's okay. It's very good for the
Very
theater.
good fashion, I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah.
Well, the Blogman and Death, which we already saw in Sofia, this very innovative, beautiful performance, edgy performance. I see that you're
Which
using
performer?
the Plugman and Death.
It was already well. It was there and so I knew that it will come, but
Yeah, it was
it was
the other
already.
day. Yes.
Ah, mhm.
And it's amazing how you use the new technology. It's how your performances are also like a piece of visual art. Um, do you have any particular painters that you like, love, or it's
I'm not. I
completely
no, not particular, but I'm very interested in
in visual
painting, visual
art?
arts. Yeah, I myself. I'm sometimes drawing, painting, things like that. But when I was very young, I just my first dream was to become a visual artist, a painter, something like that. An
Yeah,
architect,
every piece you make is like also a
yeah,
visual art piece.
yeah,
Yes.
probably, yes, probably,
But
yeah.
the hologram, the that whole work with new technology, was it difficult for the actors, for
It,
you?
no, it was very funny because that performance, uh, I was never in. I was not with them. This was my first performance made by Zoom. So this was done in the at that. Fortunately, the connection worked well at that time, and this was in the year 20 or 21st. I don't know, in the 20, I think. So it was like that. So all the performance was done through by Zoom.
Oh, so you're very technology
No,
wise.
not at all. I don't think it is very new technology. It's very basic. Actually, we used extremely basic things, and I really try to avoid as much possible using of technology because the
It
technology
steals
goes
it steals
so
from the
fast.
from the magic.
No, you can use everything. The magic can be done with everything. But the problem is that the technology is so quick in advance. So advance is so fast that anything you used, it's old-fashioned already. So now it's artificial intelligence and all that. Probably it's better indeed the theater to be very simple and to try to avoid all these new technologies because we cannot control them. They are always much too fast going forward, and the charm of the theater is to be primitive and basic, probably. So that I didn't want to use high technology for this performance. It's just basic projection. It's nothing. It's basic projection. This was
Well,
something that was in the
I've never seen something like that in
yes,
theater
yeah,
before.
but yes, no. In the 60s already they were using in Czechoslovakia. They have it was a theater that used movie projection. It was not video at the time, but no, it's the mixing film images with theater. It's very old. It's
Right.
very old. It's years ago, and it's not. It's
Well,
nothing
you
new.
are being humble now, but yes, it's very, very revolutionary, I would say.
Thank you very much. I don't feel like that. On the contrary. No,
I wonder what we will see in Yona today. Is there any
no,
technological input or not?
no. It's a very Japanese performance. Very
Japanese,
performance.
very
It's
Japanese.
a very good and very interesting actor with whom I've worked many times in Japan. I worked with him, the Richard III, also some years ago. He's a star in Japan, and that's quite a special actor. You're going to see.
Which methodology you use working with actors, or it changes, or you use only the Purkarete methodology?
No
Have you been
methodology.
drawn at the time, like fascinated by, I don't know, Lee Strasberg or Michael Chekhov or
Never,
Grotowski or
no.
Artaud,
I'm
Peter
a, I'm,
Brook, or
I was a very bad scholar. I didn't learn all these things at all, and I have absolutely no methodology and no technique. Every production, every project imposes its own way of doing it. At least I'm doing it like that. I have not a real.
because in Bulgaria the Stanislavski school is has always been the leading school.
Yes, of course. In Romania, theoretically, it's like it's the same thing, but nobody knew what was Stanislavski. Nobody ever read anything or so say we make Stanislavski, but no, nobody knows what it was about. So, but Stanislavski, but it's some kind of of
Psychological theater.
psychological realism. It was more correct used,
Right.
which was the basis of the school, which was not bad at all for the school. I think it is a very good way to do in the school, a school that has a lot of time. For instance,
Exactly.
in Russia, they make 5 years of school, and the students are there from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock in the evening.
And we too. We when we were at the National Academy, we were
The
sleeping
same
there.
thing. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this happened also sometimes in Romania. Now it's completely different, I think. I don't know, the schools are
And
completely
do you
different.
plan to work with Bulgarian actors in Bulgaria at the National Theater, maybe?
I don't have any plan in this. I I I don't make very long.
Question was, do you plan to work in Bulgaria?
No, no. I have some projects for 1.5 or till the next year, till the end of next year. Actually, I hope I'll be able to do more productions, and then I don't know what will happen.
Well, what an actor who is going to a casting with you should know.
Please,
What an
I don't
actor,
understand.
if an actor has to go to be cast by you, what should he or she
Yeah,
know in
I
advance?
don't know. No, I don't know. In general, I don't necessarily do castings. For instance, when I work in Romania, or in permanent companies, so I just see the casting you can do when Are you still there? I mean, it's.
Yes, I'm here, but you
Did you
had a
hear me?
little. Yes.
Yes. So sometimes you are obliged to make a casting when you go in a theater, when you a new theater abroad. I
Don't have
have
a
done
troupe.
castings in Britain, for instance. Yes. So you make a specific performance. You look for a specific actor for a specific part. So the candidate has to correspond to what you think should be necessary for that part. So it's quite simple. No.
Okay. I can you consider me for your castings in the future? I'm applying now.
Yeah.
But you're frozen, so I don't. Yes. I'm joking a little
Yeah,
bit,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, it start to be to but
but
no, no, I
okay.
don't understand. No.
I said consider me for your future castings.
Okay, thank you. Okay, very good. When we are going to make a casting, it depends on the play. The
Exactly. That's very
Yes.
important.
Yeah, yeah.
But aside from that, it will be an honor for Bulgaria if you have time and come here to work with us and on Bulgarian stage. And thank you very much for this interview. This is just before the two performances of Iona and just after the Plugman and the Death performance in Seoul. So I will say goodbye now to Mr. Purkarete because the connection
Okay,
is
okay.
also lost.
Yeah, okay. It's a loss. Yes, yes. Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye
Good.
bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.